Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Naruto disappeared after the 4th Great Ninja War. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The sky was not simply gray. It was the color of a bruise. It was a violent, swirling mixture of charcoal and sickly purple, the afterimage of a chakra storm so potent it had torn the atmosphere asunder. The air did not smell like rain. It smelled of ozone, of charred stone, and the heavy, metallic tang of vaporized blood. The wind did not blow. It violently dragged itself across the desolate landscape, carrying with it the heat of a dying sun. Kakashi Hatake ran. His legs burned with a fatigue that went beyond the physical. It was a bone-deep exhaustion, the kind that settled into the marrow after days of war, after watching friends die, after leading an army against a goddess. He had no Sharingan to drain his reserves anymore, yet his vision blurred at the edges, his body screaming for rest. But he could not rest. Not yet, Sensei. The voice was ragged, desperate. Sakura Haruno was a few paces ahead of him, her pink hair matted with grime and sweat, her medical vest torn. She was stumbling, her chakra control flickering as she forced speed into her limbs. She had practically depleted her strength of 100 seal, keeping the army alive, keeping them alive, but she moved with the frantic energy of someone running from a nightmare. I see the statues, Kakashi called out, though his voice was swallowed by the howling wind. Or rather, what was left of them. The Valley of the End, the legendary monument to the history of the shinobi world, was gone. The majestic waterfall had been reduced to a trickle of muddy sludge. The towering figures of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, which had stood sentinel for generations, were obliterated. Only jagged stumps of stone remained, jutting out of the earth like broken teeth. The devastation was absolute. The geography itself had been rewritten. The river had been displaced, flooding the surrounding forest, creating a swamp of debris and steaming water. Naruto! Sasuke! Sakura screamed, her voice cracking. There was no answer. Just the hiss of steam rising from the molten rocks and the low rumble of thunder. They landed in the epicenter of the crater. The ground was hot to the touch, the mud baked into a ceramic hardness in some places and turned to glass in others. Kakashi scanned the area, his heart hammering against his ribs. He felt a profound sense of dread, a cold stone dropping into his stomach. Over there! Sakura gasped. She pointed toward a slab of rock that had once been part of Madara's foot. Lying atop it, shrouded in the gloom, was a figure. Kakashi moved instantly, ignoring the protest of his muscles. They scrambled up the debris. It was Sasuke. The Uchiha lay on his back, staring blankly at the stormy sky. His left arm was gone, severed just below the shoulder, the wound cauterized by the heat of the blast but still weeping blood. His clothes were tattered remnants. His face was pale, translucent, his breathing shallow and rattling in his chest. Sasuke-kun! Sakura dropped to her knees beside him, her hands already glowing with green medical chakra, though the light was dim, flickering with her own exhaustion. Tears welled in her eyes, cutting tracks through the dust on her face. Sasuke, can you hear me? Stay with me. Sasuke's single eye, the Rinnegan having deactivated into a black void of exhaustion, slid toward her. He looked confused. Broken, Sakura. He rasped. The sound was like dry leaves scraping together. Don't speak, she ordered, her voice trembling. I need to stop the bleeding. I need to. She looked at the missing limb, her face twisting in horror, but her training took over. She pressed her hands over the stump, pouring what little life force she had left into him. Kakashi stood over them, his eyes darting frantically around the immediate area. Sasuke, Kakashi said, his tone sharp, cutting through the haze. Where is Naruto? Sasuke blinked. A frown appeared between his brows. He turned his head slightly, wincing, looking to his right. He looked at the empty space beside him. He was... Sasuke whispered. He was right here. Kakashi felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. He's not here now, Sasuke. Look at me. Where is he? We clashed, Sasuke murmured, his consciousness drifting. Indra's arrow. Raisin shuriken, too much energy. He smiled. Sakura asked, panic rising in her pitch. Sasuke, where is he? The light, Sasuke said, his voice fading. Whatever he did, he took the backlash. He absorbed the recoil, to keep the valley from shattering. Sasuke's eye widened, a sudden flicker of lucid terror. The silence. Why is it so silent? Search the area? Kakashi commanded, though he felt his knees weakening. Sakura, stabilize him. I'll find Naruto. Kakashi moved away from them, descending into the muddy basin. Naruto! He yelled. Naruto! He expected to find the boy. No, the young man, battered and bruised, perhaps missing an arm like his counterpart, grinning that stupid, defiant grin. He expected to hear a groan, a complaint about being hungry, a demand for ramen. He found nothing. He searched the rubble of the statues. He lifted boulders with trembling hands. He walked on water that was boiling hot, scanning the depths. Nothing. There was no body. There was no orange jumpsuit. There were no scraps of clothing. But worse than the lack of physical evidence was the silence of the chakra. Naruto Uzumaki was a beacon. Even when suppressed, his chakra was a roaring fire, a sun that warmed everything around it. And inside him was Kurama, a creature of immense, hateful, beautiful power. Their combined signature should have been deafening. But the Valley of the End was void. It was spiritually sterile. It felt as though the very concept of chakra had been erased from this spot. Kakashi stopped in the middle of a mud flat. The rain began to fall then, a heavy, cold downpour that hissed against the hot rocks. He stood there, the water soaking his vest, his silver hair plastering to his forehead. It's not possible, Kakashi thought. He's the child of prophecy. He just saved the world. He can't just cease to be. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura's scream was different this time. It wasn't a call for help. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated anguish. Kakashi blurred back to her position. He found her not by Sasuke, but a few meters away, near the edge of the waterline. She was on her hands and knees in the mud, digging frantically. Sakura? She didn't answer. She pulled something out of the wet earth. She clutched it to her chest, curling around it, her shoulders shaking violently. A primal sob ripped from her throat, a sound so raw it made Kakashi flinch. He stepped closer. In her hands, covered in muck and scratched from the impact, was a forehead protector. The metal plate was dented. The blue cloth was singed and torn. But the symbol of the hidden leaf was still visible, a defiant spiral carved into the steel. It was Naruto's. He never took it off. During the entire war, even when his clothes were shredded, he kept that protector on. It was his promise. It was his identity. It's cold, Sakura whispered, looking up at Kakashi with wide, terrified eyes. Sensei, the metal, it's stone cold. He wouldn't leave it. Kakashi stared at the object. If Naruto had been blown away by the blast, the headband might have fallen off. If he had been vaporized. Kakashi shut that thought down. He locked it in a steel box in the back of his mind. He is alive, Kakashi said. It was not a statement of fact. It was an order to the universe. He is alive, Sakura. I can't feel him, she sobbed, pressing the metal against her forehead. I can't feel Kurama. I can't feel anything. It's just empty. Kakashi knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. We are taking Sasuke back. We are getting reinforcements. And we are going to turn every stone in this world until we find him. Do you understand me? Sakura looked at him, her green eyes dull and swimming with tears. She nodded, slowly. Yes, Sensei. Good. Kakashi stood up. He looked back at the unconscious form of Sasuke. Because if we don't find him, this peace won't last a week. The journey back to the main encampment was a blur of misery. Kakashi carried Sasuke. The Uchiha was lighter than he looked, wasted away by the battles and the blood loss. Sakura walked beside them, stumbling every few hundred meters, clutching Naruto's headband so tightly her knuckles were white. They didn't speak. There was nothing to say. When they broke through the tree line and entered the clearing where the allied shinobi forces had set up their forward operating base, the reaction was immediate. Cheers erupted. Thousands of ninja, from the leaf, sand, mist, cloud, and stone, saw the arrival of Team 7 and assumed the best. They saw Kakashi, the legendary copy ninja. They saw Sakura, the disciple of the fifth Hokage. They saw the unconscious body of the rogue Uchiha, defeated. The war is over! Someone shouted. They did it! Hats were thrown in the air. People hugged each other, weeping with relief. The sound was deafening, a wave of jubilation that crashed against the small, broken group of three. Kakashi wanted to vomit. He walked through the parting crowd, his face a mask of stone. He ignored the hands reaching out to pat his back. He ignored the questions. Where is Naruto? Where is the hero? Is he behind you? Tsunade pushed through the crowd, flanked by Shizen. The fifth Hokage looked haggard, her youth jutsu straining to hold up, but her eyes were sharp. She took one look at Kakashi's face, at the way Sakura was hunched over, and a smile died on her lips. She stopped the medics who were rushing forward to take Sasuke back. Tsunade barked, her voice projecting with terrifying authority. Give them space. Secure the perimeter. No one comes within 50 meters. The celebration faltered. The ninja looked at each other, confused. The silence spread like a contagion, radiating outward from the Hokage until the entire camp was quiet. Tsunade stepped into the circle. She looked at Sasuke, noting the missing arm. She looked at Sakura, seeing the headband. Finally, she met Kakashi's eyes. Report, she said softly, so only they could hear. Sasuke Uchiha has been neutralized, Kakashi said, his voice flat. The infinite Tsukuyomi can be dispelled once he wakes up. And? Tsunade pressed. And the other one? Kakashi closed his eyes for a fraction of a second. Missing in action. Tsunade inhaled sharply. Shizen gasped, covering her mouth. Missing? Tsunade hissed. Kakashi, the war is over. There is nowhere to hide. Is he dead? We didn't find a body, Sakura whispered, her voice trembling. Just this. She held up the headband. Tsunade stared at the metal plate. She reached out and touched it, her fingers brushing the scratched surface. She looked up, and for a moment, the legendary Sannin looked old. Truly old. If the Alliance finds out Naruto is gone, Tsunade murmured. If the other Kage realize the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails has vanished. Panic, Kakashi finished. Chaos. The Raikage will assume we've hidden him. The Iwanin will think it's an opportunity. Tsunade straightened her spine. The grief was still there, but she shoved it down, replaced by the iron will of a Hokage. Get Sasuke to the intensive care tent. Under ANBU guard. No one enters but me and Sakura. Tell the Alliance that Naruto and Sasuke are both in critical condition and are being treated in a secure location due to unstable chakra levels. You want to lie? Sakura asked weakly. I want to buy us time, Tsunade snapped, though her hand rested gently on Sakura's head. We have to dispel the Tsukuyomi first. We have to secure the peace. Then we find him. 3 days later, consciousness returned to Sasuke Uchiha not as awakening, but as a drowning. He gasped, his single eye snapping open, his chest heaving as he tried to sit up. Pain flared in his left shoulder, pinning him down. Chains rattled. He was in a white tent. The smell of antiseptic was overpowering. He tried to mold chakra, but his pathways felt sluggish, dampened by seals. Easy, Uchiha. Sasuke turned his head. Sitting in a chair by the bed was Kakashi. He was reading a book, not his usual smut, but a mission scroll. He looked exhausted. His mask was on, but the lines around his eyes were deep canyons of stress. Kakashi, Sasuke croaked. His throat felt like he had swallowed glass. He looked down at his left side. The arm was gone. Wrapped in heavy bandages, he stared at it for a long moment, the memory of the Chidori clashing with the Rasengan flashing in his mind. The war? Sasuke asked. Over, Kakashi said, closing the scroll. You and Naruto, you did it. Or you almost did it. You still need to weave the sign to release the illusion. Sasuke nodded slowly. The madness of Indra, the revolution, the desire to kill the Kage, it felt distant now. Washed away by the collision. Washed away by the look in Naruto's eyes right before the end. Where is he? Sasuke asked. Is he in the other tent? Is he shouting to get out? Kakashi didn't answer immediately. He set the scroll down on the small table. He clasped his hands together and leaned forward. Sasuke, Kakashi said quietly. What is the last thing you remember? Sasuke frowned. He closed his eye, diving into the fragmented memories. We were falling, Sasuke said slowly. We had exhausted everything. I used the flame control, he used the wind. We collided. There was a sphere of light. It was blinding. I felt him let go. Let go? He stopped pushing against me, Sasuke said, his brow furrowing. The energy was unstable. It was going to explode outward, destroy everything. He pulled it in. He acted like a sinkhole for the chakra. Sasuke opened his eye. He looked at me. He was bleeding. He looked sad. And then he smiled. He said. Sasuke strained, trying to hear the voice in his memory. I'll handle the rest. And then? Kakashi prompted. Then white. Just white. And silence. Sasuke looked at Kakashi. Why are you asking me this? Where is he? Kakashi stood up. He walked to the flap of the tent, checking to make sure the privacy seals were active. Sasuke, Kakashi said, turning back. Naruto is gone. Sasuke froze. Gone? You mean dead? I mean gone, Kakashi said. We found you. We found his headband. But Naruto, he isn't there. We've had sensors combing the wreckage for 3 days. Hyuga clan members. Inuzuka hounds. Sage mode users. There is no trace of him. Not a drop of blood, not a fragment of bone, not a wisp of Kurama's chakra. Sasuke stared at him. The words didn't make sense. Naruto was the most stubborn existence in the world. He was loud. He was bright. He couldn't just vanish. That's impossible, Sasuke whispered. I know, Kakashi said. He can't be dead, Sasuke said, his voice rising. I didn't kill him. I felt his chakra right until the end. He was alive when the light took him. I believe you, Kakashi said. But the rest of the world won't. Kakashi walked back to the bed. Listen to me closely, Sasuke. The infinite Tsukuyomi is still active. People are trapped in dreams. You are the only one who can release them. But the moment you do, the 5 Kage will demand answers. They will want to see the hero of the war. If I tell them I don't know where he is, they will think you killed him, Kakashi said bluntly. Or that you've hidden him away to use the tailed beast for yourself. The alliance is fragile. It was built on the back of Naruto's charisma. Without him, it collapses. Sasuke looked down at his single hand. He clenched it into a fist. He had wanted to be the Hokage. He had wanted to bear the world's hatred to force peace. He had wanted to be the shadow. But now, the sun had gone out, and the world was left in a shadow far darker than anything he had intended. What do we do? Sasuke asked. We lie, Kakashi said. We say he is recovering. We say his injuries are too severe for visitors. And we search. Tsunade has authorized an SS-rank mission. Operation Sunless. It is top secret. Only the Kage, myself, Sakura, and Shikamaru know the truth. Shikamaru? He's the only one smart enough to coordinate a search this massive without tipping off the civilians, Kakashi explained. Sasuke threw the covers off. He swung his legs over the side of the bed. He was dizzy, his vision swimming, but he forced himself to stand. I'm going, Sasuke said. Kakashi put a hand on his chest. You can barely stand, Sasuke. And you are technically a prisoner of war. I have the Rinnegan, Sasuke snarled, though there was no malice in it, only desperation. I can see traces of dimensional rifts. If he disappeared, if he really vanished without a trace, then maybe he isn't on this plane anymore. Kakashi's eye widened slightly. You think he was transported? Kagaya shifted dimensions, Sasuke said, leaning heavily against the bed frame. That clash, the amount of energy, it could have torn space-time. If he's out there, if he's trapped in some void. Sasuke looked at Kakashi, his expression fierce. He came for me. He chased me for years. He never gave up. I am not going to let him rot in some dimensional crack while I sit here. Kakashi looked at his student. He saw the regret. He saw the terror of being alone again. First, Kakashi said, you released the Tsukuyomi? You saved the world, Sasuke. That is your penance. And then, Kakashi said, we find him. 1 hour later, Sasuke stood on a precipice overlooking the devastation of the battlefield. The moon hung large and red in the sky, the eye of the 10 tails still reflecting off its surface. Behind him stood Kakashi and Sakura. Sakura had refused to look at him at first, but she had handed him a crutch. Her eyes were red and puffy. Are you ready? Kakashi asked. Sasuke looked up at the moon. He weaved a single-hand seal. He thought of Itachi. He thought of his parents. But mostly, he thought of the blonde idiot who had taken a Chidori to the chest and still refused to let him sever their bond. I acknowledge you, Sasuke thought, projecting the thought as if Naruto could hear it. I lost. You won. So don't you dare die on me. He channeled his chakra. The Rinnegan pulsed. Release. The light of the moon shifted. The red hue dissolved, fading into a pristine, clear white. The patterns of the Rinnegan vanished from the lunar surface. Across the world, the roots of the god tree began to wither. Cocoons opened. People spilled out onto the ground, blinking, confused, waking from their perfect dreams into the harsh reality of a broken world. They woke up to peace. But in the Valley of the End, as the first rays of the real dawn broke over the horizon, the silence remained. Sakura stepped forward to the edge of the cliff. The sun was rising, casting long shadows across the crater. It illuminated the mud, the debris, the ruin, but it felt cold. Without him, the sunrise felt like a mockery. Sakura reached into her pouch and pulled out the battered forehead protector. She clutched it tight. We'll find you, she whispered to the wind. Sasuke watched the sun rise, the light hitting his face but failing to warm him. The world was saved. The war was over. But as he looked at the empty space where the statues once stood, Sasuke Uchiha realized the terrifying truth. He was the strongest shinobi in the world now. And he had never felt more powerless. The search for the vanishing sun had begun. The rebuilding of Konohagakure was a cacophony of sounds that should have been hopeful. From the Hokage Tower, one could hear the rhythmic thud-thud-thud of hammers, the grinding of Earth-style users reshaping stone, and the shouts of coordination from construction crews. The village was healing. The crater caused by pain was finally being filled in, buildings were rising from the dust, and the streets were being repaved with fresh limestone. The infinite Tsukuyami had been dispelled for 31 days. The world had woken up. But to Shikamaru Nara, the noise sounded like a funeral dirge disguised as progress. He stood on the balcony of the administrative office, an unlit cigarette dangling loosely from his lips. He hadn't lit one since the war ended, a silent, subconscious penance. But he needed the familiar weight of it. The reports from the border are getting worse, a voice said behind him. Shikamaru didn't turn. He knew the footsteps. Ino Yamanaka leaned against the doorframe. Her usually impeccable appearance was frayed. There were dark circles under her eyes that no amount of makeup could hide. She held a clipboard as if it were a shield. Which border? Shikamaru asked, his voice gravelly. Kumo, Ino sighed, walking over to join him at the railing. An IWA. The Raikage is demanding proof of life. Again. He's moved a battalion to the edge of the land of hot water. He claims it's a training exercise, but their sensory division is pinging our borders every hour. And the civilians? Restless, Ino said quietly. The rumors are mutating, Shikamaru. First, they said Naruto was on a secret mission. Then they said he was in a coma. Now. She hesitated. Now they're saying Sasuke killed him to steal the tailed beasts, and that Kakashi is covering it up to use Sasuke as a weapon. Shikamaru bit down on the filter of his cigarette. Troublesome. It was an inadequate word for the catastrophe they were juggling. The world had united to fight a monster, but now that the monster was gone, the adrenaline was fading. In its place, the old, ugly habits of the shinobi nations were creeping back in. Fear. Suspicion. Greed. The alliance was a house of cards, and Naruto Uzumaki was the glue. Without the glue, the wind was already blowing. Where is Kakashi-sensei? Ino asked. Downstairs, Shikamaru gestured vaguely toward the detention levels deep beneath the tower. Visiting the prisoner. Ino flinched slightly. Is it safe? The mob outside the gates. The mob is the least of our worries, Shikamaru said, staring up at the stone faces of the Hokage. They were currently carving the sixth face. It was going up too fast. If the truth gets out, if the world finds out the sun has actually set, the mob will be the ones begging for protection. The air in the detention block was stagnant. It was a high-security isolation wing, reinforced with chakra-dampening seals written in blood ink. It was designed to hold Kage-level threats. Currently, it held the savior of the world. Sasuke Uchiha sat in the center of the cell. He was not bound by chains. There were no chains strong enough to hold him, even with one arm. But he was bound by something far heavier. He sat in a meditative pose, his single hand resting on his knee. His eyes were closed. The heavy iron door groaned open. A bar of artificial light cut across the darkness. Sasuke didn't move. "You're late." Kakashi Hatake stepped into the cell. He wasn't wearing his flak jacket. He was wearing the high-collared, ceremonial white robes of the Hokage. The triangular hat was tucked under his arm. He looked uncomfortable, like a man wearing a costume that didn't fit. "I had to lose a tail," Kakashi said, his voice muffled behind his mask. "The ANBU Foundation remnants are getting bold. They want to know why the traitor isn't being executed." "Let them come," Sasuke said indifferently. "I'd rather not have you massacre half the village's security forces before lunch," Kakashi sighed. He kicked a small stool over and sat down. He looked tired. Not just sleepy tired, but soul tired. "How are the eyes?" "Quiet," Sasuke replied. "And the search?" Sasuke opened his eyes. The right was black. The left was the ripple-patterned purple of the Rinnegan. "I have scanned the dimensional coordinates twice a day for a month. I have traced the residual chakra signatures from Kagaya's dimensions. I have looked into the spaces between seconds." Sasuke paused, his jaw tightening. "Nothing," Kakashi finished for him. "It is as if he was erased," Sasuke said, his voice dropping an octave. "Even the dead leave an echo in the Pure Land. I can see the border of the Pure Land with this eye, Kakashi. I can see the souls of the past. I saw Itachi. But Naruto." He shook his head. "He isn't in the living world, and he isn't in the dead one. He is nowhere." Kakashi leaned back against the cold stone wall. "The inauguration is in an hour." "Congratulations," Sasuke said dryly. "Don't," Kakashi warned. "I didn't want this. Obito. Rin. Minato-sensei. None of them would have wanted this version of me leading the village. I'm a scarecrow, Sasuke. I'm just propped up to scare the birds away. You're the only one left," Sasuke pointed out brutally. "Tsunade is broken. She spends her days in the archives looking for medical miracles that don't exist. Guy is in a wheelchair. And Naruto." The name hung in the air, sucking the oxygen out of the room. "The summit is tomorrow," Kakashi said, shifting gears. "The 5 Kage are convening here. It was supposed to be a victory celebration. Now, it's an interrogation. They want to know where the Jinchuriki is. The Raikage is claiming that since the tailed beasts are gone, and Naruto is gone, Konoha must have seized control of the Bijuu chakra. He thinks I'm building a monopoly," Sasuke scoffed. "I is a fool. He sees hammers everywhere because he is a nail." "He's a terrified leader," Kakashi corrected. "And terrified leaders start wars. Which brings me to why I'm here." Kakashi reached into his robes and pulled out a scroll. He tossed it onto Sasuke's lap. "What is this?" "Your script," Kakashi said. Sasuke frowned. He didn't pick it up. "I can't tell them the truth, Sasuke," Kakashi said, his visible eye hardening. "If I tell them Naruto is missing, the alliance fractures. The minor nations will revolt. The criminal underworld will rise up. The belief that Naruto is watching is the only deterrent we have left. So you want me to lie?" "I want you to be silent," Kakashi said. "I'm going to tell them that Naruto is in a critical state of chakra recall. That his body is undergoing a cellular breakdown due to the massive intake of nature energy during the final battle. That he is quarantined for his safety, and theirs. They won't believe it without proof." "They will if you back it up," Kakashi said. "You are the other half of the 6 paths. You are the only one who can theoretically understand his condition. If you tell them that his chakra is volatile, that seeing him could kill them, they might back off." Sasuke looked at the scroll. He hated lies. He had spent his life manipulated by them. Itachi's lie. Tobi's lie. The villages lie, and if I refuse, then we have a fourth great ninja war. But this time, it's everyone against Konoha. Sasuke picked up the scroll. He didn't open it. He just gripped it tightly in his remaining hand. He would hate this, Sasuke whispered. He hated hiding. He hated war more, Kakashi countered. He stood up, smoothing out his robes. He placed the Hokage hat on his head. The shadow of the brim obscured his eyes. I'll have Sakura escort you to the summit hall tomorrow. Don't try to leave the village, Sasuke. Please. Kakashi walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the metal frame. For what it's worth, Kakashi said softly, I hope you're right. I hope he's trapped in a dimension somewhere. Because if he's dead, then I'm just the Hokage of a graveyard. The door slammed shut, plunging Sasuke back into the dark. The inauguration was a blur of forced smiles and heavy velvet. Kakashi stood on the roof of the Hokage mansion. Below him, thousands of villagers and shinobi had gathered. The mood was strange. It was manic. People cheered too loudly, clapped too hard. They were desperate for a symbol of stability. People of Konoha. Kakashi's voice was amplified by wind chakra. The war is over. The dawn has come. Cheers. But Kakashi could see the faces in the front row. He saw Konohamaru, his scarf trailing, looking left and right, searching for his idol. He saw Iruka, standing with his hands clasped, looking at the empty spot next to Kakashi where the seventh Hokage was supposed to be standing one day. Kakashi went through the motions. He accepted the title. He promised prosperity. He promised protection. But as he looked out over the sea of faces, he realized that the will of fire felt dim. It was flickering. I am the sixth, he thought. But I am just a placeholder. An empty seat warmer. Where is Naruto-senpai? The shout came from the crowd. It was a young voice. The cheering faltered. Yeah. Where is the hero? Another voice joined in. We haven't seen him. Why is the Uchiha alive and Naruto isn't here? The murmurs swelled into a roar. The ANBU stationed on the rooftops tensed. Kakashi raised a hand for silence, but the crowd was hungry. They had survived the apocalypse, and they wanted their savior. Kakashi leaned into the microphone. He felt the weight of the lie settling on his shoulders like a lead cloak. Naruto Uzumaki, Kakashi announced, his voice steady and calm, the voice of a commander, gave more than any of us. He is currently recovering in a secure location. His injuries were extensive, but he sends his will to you all. It was a good lie. Simple. Respectful. Let him rest. Kakashi commanded. He fought for us. Now we build for him. The crowd seemed to accept this, though the unease didn't vanish. It just settled, like silt at the bottom of a river. From the shadows of the balcony, Hinata Hyuga watched. She wore a high-collared morning kimono of dark lavender. Her eyes, usually so gentle, were hard and dry. She activated her Byakugan, staring at Kakashi's back. She could see the erratic flow of his chakra. She could see the stress in his heart muscle. Liar, she whispered. Beside her, Kiba shifted uncomfortably. Hinata, maybe he really is hurt. You know Naruto. He pushes himself. I have been to the hospital, Kiba, Hinata said, her voice devoid of its usual stutter. I have checked the chakra registers. I have checked the sensory barrier logs. Naruto is not in the village. Then where is he? Hinata looked up at the sky, at the vast blue emptiness. He is lost, she said. And they aren't looking hard enough. The next day, the 5 Kage summit. The meeting room was a circular chamber dominated by a massive round table. The banners of fire, wind, water, earth, and lightning hung from the ceiling. The atmosphere was not diplomatic. It was predatory. Onoda, the Tsuchikage, floated above his chair, his back pain forgotten in the face of the crisis. The Mizukage, Meitarumi, looked anxious, her fingers tapping a rhythm on the wood. Gaara of the sand sat with his arms crossed, his face unreadable, though his sand gourd vibrated slightly on the floor. And then there was the Raikage. He was a mountain of muscle and fury. He had lost his left arm to Sasuke's Amaterasu before the war, and the empty sleeve seemed to mock him. He slammed his remaining fist onto the table, cracking the solid oak. Enough of this dancing, Hataki! The Raikage roared. We have been sitting here for 20 minutes discussing trade routes and reconstruction budgets. I did not come here to discuss the price of timber. Kakashi sat at the head of the table. He was calm, the picture of lazy indifference, though Shikamaru, standing behind him, knew he was coiled like a spring. We have many issues to discuss, Reikage Dano, Kakashi said smoothly. There is only one issue. Pointed a finger at Kakashi. The Jinchuriki. The Nine Tails. Where are they? My sensors felt the chakra vanish at the Valley of the End. They felt the explosion. And since then? Silence. Naruto is recovering, Kakashi repeated the line. Bullshit. Stood up, kicking his chair back. If he is recovering, let me see him. Let Hyuga confirm it. You are hiding him. You are keeping the ultimate weapon for yourself now that the Akatsuki is gone. Reikage, Gaara spoke up. His voice was soft, but it carried authority. Konoha led the forces that saved us. Naruto saved us. Do you accuse them of treachery so soon? I accuse them of being ninja. The Reikage snapped. We are all villages of killers, Kazekage. Don't pretend we are friends just because we fought a goddess together. Power vacuums create war. And right now, Konoha holds all the cards. The Tsuchikage cleared his throat. The Reikage has a point, albeit rudely made. If Naruto is incapacitated, the balance of power shifts. If he is dead, well, the tailed beasts will eventually respawn. We need to know the timeline. He is not dead, Kakashi said sharply. Then prove it! I shouted. Bring him here! Or bring the brat who took his arm. You asked for me? The doors to the summit chamber swung open. Sasuke Uchiha walked in. The reaction was instantaneous. The Reikage's lightning armor flared to life, his hair standing on end. The Mizukage's bodyguards drew their swords. Gaara's sand rushed up to form a shield. Sasuke didn't flinch. He walked into the room wearing a simple gray prisoner's garb, his empty left sleeve pinned to his chest. His hair hung over his eyes. Sakura walked a step behind him, her hands glowing green, signaling she was his handler/guard. Sasuke Uchiha, the Reikage growled, sparks flying from his body. You have some nerve showing your face to me. I was invited, Sasuke said calmly. He stopped at the edge of the table. He looked at the Reikage with a bored expression. Sit down, Reikage. If I wanted to kill you, you'd already be dead. Why you little? A surge forward. Enough. Kakashi released a burst of killing intent. It wasn't the vast ocean of chakra Naruto possessed, nor the sinister cold of Sasuke. It was the sharp, precise killing intent of an assassin who had killed 1,000 men. The Reikage paused. Sasuke is here to explain Naruto's condition, Kakashi said. Sakura, the medical report. Sakura stepped forward. Her hands were shaking, but she steadied them on the table. She laid out a chart. It was faked. A masterpiece of forgery created by Shizen and Tsunade the night before. Naruto Uzumaki is suffering from acute chakra hypersensitivity, Sakura recited. During the final clash, he acted as a conduit for the planet's natural energy to stabilize the dimensional rift caused by Kagaya's sealing. His chakra network was melted, the Kage leaned in. Even A looked at the charts. Melted? Mei asked, horrified. He is radioactive, essentially, Sakura lied, her voice cracking with genuine emotion that she repurposed for the deception. His body is leaking unstable yang chakra. If he is moved, or if he becomes agitated, he could detonate. He is in a medically induced coma in the Shikatsu forest, under the care of Lady Katsuyu. It was a brilliant detail. The Shikatsu forest was inaccessible to anyone without a contract. It was the perfect hiding spot, and you, the Reikage, turned to Sasuke. You fought him. Why are you standing here while he is melting? Sasuke looked the Reikage in the eye. Because he protected me, Sasuke said. And this part was true. He took the brunt of the backlash. He shielded me from the impact. Sasuke raised his single hand. I am the prisoner here. I am the one under seal. Naruto is the hero. If you disturb his recovery, if you force him to wake up before his network heals, you will kill him. And if you kill him, Sasuke's Rinnegan flashed. For a split second, the pressure in the room multiplied. The table groaned. Then I will finish what Madara started. The threat hung in the air. Absolute. Terrifying. Gaara looked at Sasuke. He saw the desperation behind the threat. He saw the grief. Gaara knew then. He knew Naruto wasn't in the forest. He knew Naruto was gone. But Gaara also understood why they were lying. I accept Konoha's explanation, Gaara said quietly. The Raikage looked between Gaara, Kakashi, and the terrifying eyes of the Uchiha. He powered down his lightning armor. Fine, a spat. But I want monthly reports. And if I sniff a lie, if I find out you are using him. You won't, Kakashi said. That evening, the sun was setting, painting the village in hues of orange and gold, Naruto's colors. Sasuke sat on the edge of the stone face of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. He was technically supposed to be back in his cell, but Kakashi had looked the other way for an hour. Sakura sat beside him. She wasn't touching him, but she was close enough that he could feel her warmth. We pulled it off, Sakura whispered. They bought it, for now, Sasuke said. Where do you think he is, Sasuke? She asked. It was the question she asked every day. Sasuke looked out at the horizon. He thought about the dimension of ice. The dimension of acid. The dimension of gravity. He's waiting, Sasuke said. He's a stubborn idiot. He's waiting for me to come get him. Sasuke stood up. The wind caught his dark hair. I'm leaving, Sakura. Sakura stood up quickly. What? You can't. You're on probation. Kakashi said. I can't find him from inside a cell, Sasuke said. And I can't find him sitting in meetings listening to old men argue. He turned to face her. I need to travel. I need to visit the ruins of Kagaya's shrines. I need to trace the ley lines of the world. It's a journey of atonement, yes. But it's a search mission. Sakura looked at him. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tell him to stay, that she couldn't lose both of them. But she saw the look in his eyes. It wasn't the look of the Avenger anymore. It was the look of a man who had left a part of his soul behind and needed to retrieve it. Take me with you, she said. Sasuke shook his head. No. Kakashi needs you. The village needs a head medic. And, if I fail, someone needs to be here to keep the lie alive. He stepped closer to her. He raised his single hand and, with 2 fingers, tapped her forehead. I'll be back, he said. And I'll bring him with me. Sakura froze, her hand going to her forehead. Tears spilled over her cheeks. Promise? She choked out. Sasuke turned around, his cape billowing. I promise. 6 months after the 4th Great Ninja War. Time in Konoha did not heal. It merely solidified. For the first few weeks after the war, the village had been a frantic hive of activity. There was debris to clear, funerals to hold, and a chaotic, manic energy that came from the sheer disbelief of survival. But as autumn turned to winter, and winter began to bleed into a gray, reluctant spring, the adrenaline faded. What was left was the silence. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket that covered the hidden leaf. The buildings were rising again, taller, stronger, reinforced with Earth-style jutsu and modern engineering, but the streets felt hollow. The laughter was quieter. The shadows seemed longer. The lie was holding, but it was brittle. Part 1. The Shadow's Burden. Shikamaru Nara sat in his office, formerly the storage room he had converted because the main administrative wing gave him a headache, and stared at a game of shogi he was playing against himself. He hadn't made a move in 40 minutes. The board was a mess. He was playing the role of the allied shinobi forces against an invisible enemy called geopolitics, and he was losing. You're going to burn a hole in the board, Shikamaru. Shikamaru didn't look up. He knew the chakra signature. Temari stood in the doorway, her giant fan folded against her back. She had been acting as the diplomatic liaison between Suna and Konoha for the last 3 months, a position that was becoming increasingly difficult. It's the stone, Shikamaru muttered, finally picking up a night piece. The Tsuchikage is pushing for a renegotiation of the reconstruction funds. He says since Konoha has the hero, we don't need the extra Ryo for security. He thinks we're hoarding resources. Temari sighed, walking into the room and closing the door behind her. The click of the latch sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. Gaara is holding him back, Temari said, sitting on the edge of his desk, disregarding the stacks of classified paperwork. But he can't do it forever. The lie, Shikamaru. It's rotting. Shikamaru finally looked up. His eyes were dark, rimmed with red. He hadn't slept properly in months. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the command tent. He heard his father's last words, and then, he saw the empty crater at the Valley of the End. "We need more time," Shikamaru said, his voice rasping. "We don't have time," Temari countered sharply. "Rumors are leaking. People are asking why Naruto hasn't been seen at Ichiraku. Why he wasn't at the memorial service. Why he hasn't sent a single shadow clone to help with the rebuilding. Even the dense ones are starting to do the math." Shikamaru rubbed his temples. "If we admit he's missing, the Iwanin will cross the border within the week. The Cloud will reactivate their Jinchuriki capture protocols just in case he's hiding in their territory. It's a domino effect. So what? You just keep pretending?" Temari challenged. "For how long? A year? 10 years? You're treating the world like a child you're afraid to tell the truth to." "I'm treating the world like a powder keg," Shikamaru snapped, slamming the shogi piece down. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Shikamaru exhaled smoke that wasn't there, reaching for a pack of cigarettes he had promised his mother he wouldn't buy. "I miss him too, you know," Temari said, her voice softening. He was loud. Annoying. But he made the wind feel warmer. Shikamaru leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. "It's not just that he's gone, Temari. It's that the hope went with him. We're just managing the decline now." "Then find him," she said. "Stop playing politics and find him." "We're trying," Shikamaru whispered. "But how do you find someone who doesn't exist anymore?" Part 2, The Green Beast's Grief. Training Ground 3 had been destroyed during the Pain Invasion, rebuilt, and was now being destroyed again. Smash. 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 Rock Lee struck the training dummy with a ferocity that was terrifying to behold. The wooden log, reinforced with steel bands, was splintering. Lee's bandages were soaked through with blood. His knuckles were raw meat. 2004. 2005. He wasn't crying. Lee didn't cry when he trained. Crying was a waste of hydration. Crying blurred the vision. He spun, delivering a leaf hurricane that snapped the dummy off its mounting post. It flew across the clearing and shattered against the tree. Lee landed in a crouch, his chest heaving, steam rising from his skin as the second gate flickered and died. "Lee." The voice came from a wheelchair parked at the edge of the clearing. My guy sat there, his right leg encased in a heavy cast that would never truly come off. The 8 gates had taken his career, but they hadn't taken his spirit. Usually. "I am not done, Guy-sensei," Lee shouted, turning around. His eyes were wild, his pupils dilated. "I have not completed the set. If I do not complete 5,000 strikes, then Naruto-kun will not come back," Guy said again, his voice uncharacteristically solemn. "Self-punishment is not training." "It's not punishment," Lee argued, his voice cracking. "It's a deal. A rule. If I work harder than anyone else, the universe has to listen. That is my nindo." "That is," Lee choked. The shout died in his throat. He fell to his knees in the dirt, clutching his bleeding hands to his chest. "Niji is gone," Lee whispered to the grass. "Niji died protecting him. If Naruto is gone too, then what was it for? Why did Niji have to die if the person he saved just vanishes?" Guy rolled his wheelchair forward. The rubber wheels crunched over the gravel. He couldn't walk, he couldn't spar, but he could still reach his student. He placed a hand on Lee's trembling shoulder. "Niji died for the future, Lee," Guy said softly. "And Naruto. Naruto is the toughest student I have ever seen. He has the power of youth burning brighter than the sun. He is not dead. Then where is he?" Lee looked up, tears finally streaming down his face, mixing with the dust. "Where is my rival?" Guy looked at the sky. He thought of Kakashi, sitting in the tower, drowning in lies. He thought of the empty swing at the academy. "He is on a journey," Guy said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "A very long journey. And until he returns, we must be strong enough to protect the place he calls home. That is what he would ask of us." Lee sniffed, wiping his nose on his arm. Yes, Guy-sensei." But as Lee stood up to reset the dummy, Guy watched him and felt a cold pang in his heart. The springtime of youth felt very far away. Part 3. The Prisoner's Release. The heavy steel doors of the blood prison isolation unit unlocked with a series of mechanical clanks that echoed through the stone corridor. Sasuke Uchiha stood waiting. He had spent 6 months in this cell. He had meditated. He had let his chakra settle. He had refused the pain medication for his stump, letting the phantom pains remind him of the Chidori that had failed, and the Rasengan that had succeeded. The door swung open. Kakashi stood there. He looked older than he had 6 months ago. His hair seemed grayer, his posture slightly more hunched. "It's time," Kakashi said. Sasuke stepped out. He wore a simple gray cloak that covered his missing arm, a high-collared black shirt, and standard shinobi sandals. He carried no weapons. His sword, the Kusanagi, had been lost in the lava dimension. "The council?" Sasuke asked as they walked down the hallway. "Furious," Kakashi admitted. "Kohara and Hamura wanted you executed. Or at least sealed permanently. They think releasing a Rinnegan user who tried to assassinate the Kage is a recipe for disaster." "They aren't wrong." "Maybe," Kakashi said. "But I'm the Hokage. And I have the veto." They emerged from the underground into the blinding light of midday. Sasuke squinted. The village smelled of sawdust and ramen broth. It smelled of life. It made him sick. Sakura was waiting for them at the exit of the interrogation building. She held a bundle of supplies. "Sasuke-kun," she breathed. She looked better than she had at the valley, but there was a hardness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She wasn't the fangirl anymore. She was the head of the hospital, a woman who had signed more death certificates in the last year than most people saw in a lifetime. She held out a scroll. "Provisions. Soldier pills. Antidotes. And..." Tsunade-sama finished the prototype. "The arm?" Sasuke asked, looking at the seal on the scroll. "It's made from Hashirama's cells," Sakura explained. "It would restore your chakra reserves. It would let you form signs." Sasuke looked at the scroll. He didn't take it. "No," Sakura blinked. "But..." "Sasuke, without it, you're at a disadvantage. If you run into enemies..." "I have the eyes," Sasuke said. "That is enough. The missing arm is necessary." "Necessary for what?" "To remember," Sasuke said. "Every time I reach for something and grasp nothing, I will remember why I am doing this. I will remember him." He turned to Kakashi. "The mission parameters?" Officially, Kakashi handed him a passport. "You are exiled. You are wandering the world to redeem your sins. If you cause trouble, Konoha disavows you." "And unofficially?" Kakashi leaned in close. "Find the rift. Trace the energy. If you find a single clue, you send a hawk directly to me. Do not engage unknown threats unless necessary. We cannot afford to lose you too." Sasuke nodded. He took the passport. "I won't come back until I find something," Sasuke said. "Sasuke," Sakura stepped forward. She looked like she wanted to hug him, but she held back. She knew the walls he had built were still there, even if the door was unlocked. "Please. Be careful." Sasuke looked at her. For the first time in years, his expression softened. "Thank you, for everything." He turned and walked away. He didn't look back. He couldn't. If he looked back, he might see the ghosts walking beside them. Part 4. The Guardian at the Gate. The main gates of Konoha were open, guarded by 2 chunin who stiffened as Sasuke approached. They gripped their spears, fear rolling off them in waves. They recognized the rogue ninja. They recognized the man who had attacked the summit. Sasuke ignored them. He walked through the archway, the village symbol painted on the wood above him. He walked about 100 meters down the main road, the forest stretching out before him. "You're leaving." Sasuke stopped. He didn't turn around. "I sensed you a mile ago." Hinata Hyuga stepped out from behind a tree. She looked different. She wasn't wearing her baggy hoodie. She wore a fitted mission outfit, the Hyuga crest proud on her shoulder. Her dark blue hair was cut shorter, practical, but it was her eyes that stopped him. The Byakugan was active. Veins bulged around her temples. She wasn't looking at him with fear, or shyness, or hesitation. She was looking at him with calculation. "You are going to look for him," Hinata stated. It wasn't a question. Sasuke turned slowly. "What if I am?" Then I have a message, Hinata said. She walked toward him. In the past, Hinata would have stuttered in the presence of Sasuke Uchiha. She would have hidden behind Naruto. But Naruto wasn't here to hide behind. She stopped 3 feet from him. Everyone blames you, she said softly. The villagers. The other clans. They whisper that you killed him. That you betrayed him at the last second. Let them talk, Sasuke said coldly. I don't care about their opinions. I know you don't, Hinata said. But I know you didn't kill him. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Oh? And why is that? Because you think I'm a good person? No, Hinata said, her voice hard as steel. Because if you had killed Naruto-kun, you wouldn't look so empty. Sasuke felt a flicker of irritation. He didn't like being read. Especially not by her. I checked the battlefield, Hinata continued. I went there, Sasuke. Before they sealed it off. I saw the residue. I saw where your chakra mixed with his. It wasn't a murder. It was a fusion. She reached into her pouch and pulled out a small, red thread. It was a charm she had knitted. Take this. Sasuke looked at it. I don't need charms. It's not a charm for luck, Hinata said. It has my chakra woven into it. If you find him, if you find even a trace, channel chakra into it. I will know. No matter where I am, I will know. Sasuke hesitated. He looked at the Hyuga heiress. He saw the grief she was carrying. It was a heavy, jagged thing, much like his own. She loved Naruto in a way Sasuke couldn't understand, a pure, unyielding devotion. Sasuke loved him as a brother, as a rival, as an anchor. 2 different loves, united by the same loss. Sasuke took the thread. He tied it around the hilt of his sword sheath. I will find him, Sasuke said. You have to, Hinata said, deactivating her Byakugan. Her eyes were suddenly watery, human again. Because you are the only one who can go where he is. You have the Rinnegan. You can walk the paths of gods. She stepped back. Don't come back without him, Uchiha-san. If you come back alone, I don't think the village will survive the heartbreak. Sasuke turned and began to walk again. Sasuke! She called out one last time. He paused. Tell him. Her voice broke. Tell him I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. Sasuke didn't respond, but he inclined his head slightly. He walked into the forest, the shadows of the trees swallowing him whole. Part 5: The Swing. Sasuke didn't leave the village territory immediately. There was one stop he had to make. A stop he hadn't planned, but his feet took him there anyway. The Ninja Academy. It was evening now. The children had gone home. The playground was empty. The sandpit was smooth. The obstacle course was silent, and there, under the large oak tree, was the swing. It was just a piece of wood suspended by 2 rusty chains. It swung gently in the breeze, making a rhythmic creak-squeak sound. Sasuke approached it slowly. He remembered this swing. He remembered walking past the academy gates as a child, surrounded by girls trying to get his attention, surrounded by the praise of teachers. And out of the corner of his eye, he would see him, the boy in the goggles. Sitting alone, looking at the ground. Sasuke had called him a loser. He had ignored him. He had thought himself superior because he was an Uchiha and Naruto was nothing. Sasuke sat down on the swing. It was too small for him now. He felt ridiculous. The chains dug into his hips. He looked out at the academy building. He closed his eye and let the silence wash over him. Is this what it felt like? Sasuke thought. Is this the cold you felt every day, Naruto? The isolation. The feeling of being in a village full of people but being completely invisible. Sasuke had chosen his isolation. He had sought power in the darkness. Naruto had been born into it, cast into it by a village that feared him. And yet Naruto had become the sun. Sasuke had become the moon. You usurpator, Sasuke whispered to the empty air. You make everyone love you, you make the whole world depend on you, and then you leave? He gripped the chain with his single hand. You saved me, Sasuke said, his voice trembling slightly. You pulled me out of the darkness. You promised we would change the world together. You don't get to back out of that promise. A gust of wind blew through the yard. Leaves swirled around Sasuke's feet. For a second, he thought he saw a flash of orange in his peripheral vision. He whipped his head around. Nothing. Just the setting sun casting long, orange beams through the trees. Sasuke stood up. He let the swing go. It rocked back and forth, empty again. I'm coming for you, Sasuke vowed. Wait for me, Naruto. He turned his back on the academy, on the swing, on the village. He activated his chakra, flickering away into the tree line. The journey had begun. Part 6, The Fracture. Back in the Hokage Tower, Kakashi stood by the window, watching the bird fly away, the hawk that had been circling, watching Sasuke leave. The door opened. He's gone? Sakura asked. He's gone, Kakashi confirmed. Do you think he'll find anything? Kakashi looked at the moon, which was rising pale and white against the darkening sky. The world is vast, Sakura. Dimensions are infinite. The odds of finding one man who has been erased from existence are zero. Kakashi turned to face his student. He pulled down his mask, revealing his face, revealing the exhaustion etched into every line. But if the odds are zero, Kakashi smiled sadly, then that makes it exactly the kind of mission Naruto would succeed at. Let's hope Sasuke has learned enough from him to do the same. Sakura nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. Outside, the wind picked up, howling through the streets of Konoha. It rattled the windows. It shook the trees. It blew dust over the stone faces of the Hokage. And on the fourth face, on the stone carving of Minato Namikaze, a single crack appeared near the eye, stress fractured by the chakra blast from the war, finally giving way to the pressure. The bond was fractured. The team was scattered. The sun had vanished. Now, only the long night remained. 2 years later, the snow did not fall gently in Konoha this winter. It came down in hard, granular sheets, driven by a biting wind that swept down from the northern mountains, cutting through the thermal layers of flak jackets, and chilling the bones of the ANBU sentries standing guard on the wall. It was the coldest winter on record in the Fire Nation. To the civilian population, it was just weather, a result of shifting pressure fronts. But to the sensory division, it felt like a physical manifestation of the world's mood. The chakra atmosphere of the elemental nations had grown frigid. The warmth that had united the 5 great nations against Kagaya Otsutsuki had long since dissipated, replaced by a shivering, suspicious tolerance. The era of peace had arrived, but it was a peace made of glass, transparent, beautiful from a distance, and ready to shatter at the slightest touch. Part 1, The Ice Queen. Sakura Haruno scrubbed her hands. The water was scalding hot, turning her skin pink, but she didn't flinch. She stared at her reflection in the steel mirror above the scrub sink. Her hair was shorter now, an angled bob that kept out of her eyes during surgery. Her face had lost the last traces of teenage roundness. Her cheekbones were sharp, her jawline defined, her green eyes piercing and devoid of the easy tears she used to shed. Director Haruno? Sakura didn't turn. Status, Shizen? The patient is stable, Shizen said, her voice hushed. The poison has been extracted. But, the liver damage is extensive. He'll never be an active shinobi again. He's alive, Sakura said, turning off the tap. She reached for a towel. That was the mission objective. Survival. Not restoration. He's a Cloud Jonin, Shizen whispered, stepping closer. Sakura, the autopsy of the attacker. The poison they used was sand-based. If the Reikage finds out a Kumo ninja was crippled by a poison originating from Suna, then he will lodge a formal complaint, and Gaara will deny it, and the wheel turns, Sakura said flatly. She dried her hands with methodical precision. Process the paperwork. Classify the poison analysis under clearance level S. Do not release the toxicology report to the Kumo delegation. That's illegal under the Alliance Treaty, Shizen pointed out, looking worried. Sakura tossed the towel into the bin. She turned to Shizen, and for a moment, Shizen saw the shadow of Tsunade in her pupil, not the boisterous, gambling Tsunade, but the Tsunade who had lost everything and hardened her heart to lead. The treaty is a piece of paper, Shizen, Sakura said. My job is to keep bodies from piling up. If lying about a poison prevents a border skirmish between lightning and wind, then I will lie. The Reikage doesn't need truth. He needs a reason not to mobilize. Sakura walked past her, her white lab coat billowing. I'm going to the tower. Page me only if the hospital catches fire. She walked through the corridors of the Konoha General Hospital. Nurses and medics stepped aside, bowing respectfully. They feared her. She was the most skilled medic in the world, a woman who could knit a heart back together with chakra, but she walked with an aura of absolute zero. She hadn't smiled, truly smiled, in 2 years. She exited the hospital into the biting cold. She didn't zip up her coat. She needed the cold. It reminded her she was still there. As she walked through the village, she saw the changes. Konoha was prosperous. Neon signs flickered in the twilight. New apartment complexes housed refugees from the smaller nations, but the statue of the 7th Hokage was still missing from the mountain. They had stopped construction after the 6th phase. There was an empty spot on the cliffside. A jagged gap where the stone had been smoothed out, waiting for a face that never came home. Sakura stopped at a crossing. A group of children ran past, playing ninja. "I'm the Hokage!" One shouted. "No, I am. I'm the hero!" A third boy yelled. "Rasengan!" Sakura flinched. The sound of the technique name was like a needle in her ear. She pulled her collar up and walked faster. 2 years, she thought. 730 days. And Sasuke is still out there, chasing ghosts in the wasteland. Part 2, The Shadow of the Dawn. The Hokage's office was filled with smoke. Shikamaru and Nara stood by the window, the sash pushed open to let the freezing air cycle out the fumes. He was chain-smoking now, a habit he had stopped fighting. "The breakdown is happening faster than we predicted," Shikamaru said, looking at the map spread across Kakashi's desk. Kakashi Hatake sat behind the desk. He looked ancient. The robes of the 6th Hokage hung loosely on his frame. He wasn't reading Ika tactics. He was reading intelligence reports from the ANBU Black Ops. "The land of Earth?" Kakashi asked. "That Tsuchikage is senile, and his granddaughter is struggling to hold the Hawks back," Shikamaru explained, pointing to a red marker on the map. "They've occupied 2 mining towns in the buffer zone between Earth and Waterfall. They claim it's reclaiming ancestral territory, but it's a resource grab. And the Waterfall village appealed to us," Kakashi surmised. "They did. They invoked Article 5 of the Alliance," Shikamaru said. "They want the hero of the world to come down there and tell the Earth forces to back off." Kakashi rubbed his temples. "And what did we tell them?" "The usual," Shikamaru sighed, exhaling a plume of smoke. "Naruto is on a classified, long-term assignment maintaining the seal on Kagaya's dimensions. He cannot be disturbed." "They're stopping believing it, Shikamaru," Kakashi said softly. "The Waterfall daimyo sent a letter. He asked if Naruto was dead. He said, and I quote, 'If the sun has set, we must learn to see in the dark.'" "He's not dead," Shikamaru snapped instinctively. "I know," Kakashi said. "But politically? He might as well be." Kakashi stood up and walked to the map. He traced a line from the land of fire to the land of rain. "It's not just the nations anymore," Kakashi said. "It's this ideology. The true dawn." Shikamaru grimaced. "The cult. They're growing," Kakashi said. "Disenfranchised shinobi. Samurai who lost their masters. Civilians who lost their families. They preached that the infinite Tsukuyomi was the true salvation. That waking up was the mistake. They think we dragged them out of heaven back into hell," Shikamaru said. "And without Naruto here to show them that reality is worth fighting for." Kakashi gestured to the window, to the gray, cold village. "It's hard to argue with them. Look at us. We are at peace, but we are miserable." There was a knock on the door. "Enter," Kakashi commanded. An ANBU with a cat mask entered. "Lord 6th. The Kazekage has arrived." He bypassed the formal procession. "He is at the gates." Kakashi exchanged a look with Shikamaru. "Gaara doesn't make surprise visits," Shikamaru noted. "This is bad." Part 3, The Glue Dissolves. They met in a private safe house in the Uchiha district, an area that was largely empty and quiet, perfect for conversations that never officially happened. Gaara of the desert had filled out. At 22 years old, he was a formidable presence. His red hair was combed flat, his trench coat tailored and pristine, but the dark circles around his eyes were deeper than ever. He sat across from Kakashi on a tatami mat. There was no tea served. "The alliance is dead," Gaara said. He didn't lead with pleasantries. He didn't ask about the weather. He stated it as a fact, as dry and brutal as the desert sands. Kakashi didn't argue. It's struggling, Gaara. It's not dead. That Tsuchikage has placed a bounty on my head, Gaara said calmly. Shikamaru, leaning against the wall, choked on his smoke. What? Unofficially, Gaara clarified. He is using proxy mercenaries. The Stone's stray dogs. They attacked a caravan of ours 3 days ago. They weren't after the goods. They were looking for travel itineraries for the Kazekage. Anoki is playing a dangerous game, Kakashi warned. Anoki is scared, Gaara said. He knows that without Naruto, the balance of power is purely mathematical. Konoha has Sasuke, sometimes. Kumo has B. Suna has me. But we are drifting apart. Gaara looked at Kakashi, his pale teal eyes searching. I need to know, Kakashi. I need the truth. Not the Alliance truth. Not the Hokage truth. I need the truth from the man who taught Naruto. Gaara leaned forward. Is he ever coming back? The room went silent. The wind rattled the loose roof tiles. Kakashi looked at his hands. He thought of the search teams. He thought of Hinata, who spent her nights at the shrine. He thought of Sasuke, wandering the dimensional wastes. We don't know, Kakashi admitted. The words tasted like ash. Sasuke is out there. He's been searching for 2 years. He sends reports, fragments of chakra trails, temporal distortions. But nothing concrete. Gaara closed his eyes. He let out a long, slow breath. The glue that held us together is gone, Gaara whispered. Naruto was the anomaly. He was the one person who could walk into a room of killers and make them want to be better men. Without him, we are just killers again. We can't give up, Shikamaru said, his voice straining. If we give up, the true dawn wins. They want us to believe hope is a lie. Hope is not a lie, Gaara said, opening his eyes. But hope is not a strategy. I can no longer hold back the hardliners in my village. They want to militarize the border with the river country. If I refuse, I face a coup. A coup? Kakashi's eyes widened. The fear is returning, Gaara said. And fear makes people do terrible things. Suddenly, the floor beneath them vibrated. It wasn't an earthquake. It was a shockwave. Boom. The sound followed a second later, a dull, heavy thud that resonated through the chest. Kakashi and Gaara were on their feet instantly. That came from the center of the village, Shikamaru yelled, already moving toward the door. Part 4, The Riot. They burst out of the safe house onto the rooftops. In the distance, a plume of black smoke was rising from the commercial district, near the academy. An attack? Gaara asked, his sand already swirling out of his gourd, forming a protective disc. No, Kakashi said, his eyes narrowing as he enhanced his vision with chakra. Not an invasion. A riot. They flickered toward the smoke. The scene below was chaotic. A crowd of about 200 people had gathered in the square in front of the Ninja Academy. They were not foreign invaders. They were Konoha citizens. They were chanting, "Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!" They wore armbands of deep crimson fabric, the color of the red moon. The True Dawn faction. In the center of the square, a man stood on a crate. He was a former Chunin, his vest tattered. He held a megaphone. "They lied to you!" The man screamed. "The Hokage lies. There is no recovery. The hero is dead. He died because this world rejected him. The infinite Tsukuyomi was peace. This starvation, this cold, this fear, this is their freedom." A Molotov cocktail was thrown. It smashed against the wall of the academy, scorching the wood. "Stop them!" A frantic police force captain shouted. "But don't kill them. They are civilians." The Konoha police force, now a mixed group of clans, was struggling to hold the line with riot shields. The mob was throwing stones, bottles, and low-level ninjutsu. Kakashi landed on a lamppost above the crowd. His killing intent washed over the square, a cold bucket of water on a raging fire. The chanting faltered. The mob looked up. Lord Sixth, the leader on the crate, sneered. He didn't look afraid. He looked fanatical. "Have you come to tell us another fairy tale? Is Naruto Uzumaki going to descend from the clouds and bring us ramen?" "Disperse," Kakashi ordered, his voice amplified by chakra. "This is an unlawful assembly. You are damaging the academy. You are endangering children." We are saving them, the leader yelled. We are demanding the truth. Admit it, Ataki. The world is doomed. The cycle of hatred has started again. The only escape is the dream. The dream was a lie, Gaara said, landing beside Kakashi. His presence, the Kazekage, sent a ripple of shock through the crowd. The monster of the sand, someone shouted. See? The killers are gathering. You think a dream is salvation? Gaara asked, his voice calm but projecting clearly. I lived in a nightmare for 15 years. I know the difference. This reality is cold. It is hard. But it is ours. Easy for the Kage to say. The leader screamed. You sit in your towers while we starve. The trade routes are blocked by bandits. The stone village threatens us. Where is the savior? Where is he? The crowd roared in agreement. Where is he? Kakashi felt the desperation in their voices. They weren't evil. They were terrified. They were grieving. They felt abandoned by the godlike figure who had promised to break the cycle. He is... Kakashi started, but the words stuck. He couldn't say he was coming. He couldn't say he was watching. He is gone! The leader shrieked. And he took the sun with him. The leader pulled a tag from his pocket. An explosive tag. He slapped it onto his own chest. For the true dawn. No! Shikamaru yelled from the ground. The leader detonated. It wasn't a massive explosion, but it was enough. The blast shredded the man and sent shrapnel flying into the front ranks of the police and the mob. Screams erupted. Panic ensued. The riot turned into a stampede. Medical teams! Kakashi roared, dropping into the fray. Secure the area! Subdue the instigators! Do not use lethal force! Gaara raised his hands. Massive waves of sand surged forward, not to crush, but to cushion. The sand wrapped around fleeing civilians, shielding them from being trampled. It blocked the flames from the academy. In minutes, it was over. The square was cleared, leaving behind the groaning wounded and the charred remains of the suicide bomber. Sakura arrived with her team, sliding across the pavement on her knees to reach a wounded police officer. Her hands glowed green instantly. She looked up at Kakashi. Her face was streaked with soot. This is getting worse, she said. Kakashi looked at the scorch mark where the man had blown himself up. He killed himself, Kakashi murmured. Just to prove a point. They are desperate for meaning, Gaara said, his sand retreating into his gourd. When the sun vanishes, people will burn down their own houses just to feel warmth. Part 5. The Message from the Void. That night, the mood in the Hokage Tower was funereal. The riot had been suppressed, but the news was spreading. The true dawn had struck in the heart of Konoha. It was a symbol. If the leaf couldn't keep its own people happy, what hope did the alliance have? Kakashi sat at his desk, staring at a bottle of sake he hadn't opened. Shikamaru was pacing. We need to declare martial law. Temporarily. Curfews. Checkpoints. That plays into their narrative, Kakashi said. If we become a police state, we prove them right. If we don't, we burn, Shikamaru countered. Excuse me, they turned. Shizen was at the door. She looked breathless. Lord Sixth. A summoning bird just arrived. It bypassed the barrier authentication. Kakashi sat up straight. Whose bird? It's a hawk, Shizen said. It has the Rinnegan in its eyes. Kakashi was out of his chair before she finished the sentence. Where? Roof. Kakashi, Shikamaru, and Gaara, who had refused to leave, rushed to the roof. Perched on the railing was a hawk. It was majestic, its feathers dark as midnight. Its eyes were indeed rippled with purple, a summon controlled directly by Sasuke's visual prowess to ensure it couldn't be intercepted or traced. It carried a small metal capsule on its leg. Kakashi approached it slowly. The hawk didn't move. It held out its leg. Kakashi unclipped the capsule. The moment he did, the hawk dispersed into a puff of smoke. Well? Shikamaru asked, his hands trembling. Kakashi opened the capsule. Inside was a tiny scroll, no bigger than a finger. He unfurled it. The handwriting was jagged, hurried. Written in blood, likely because ink wasn't available where Sasuke was. Kakashi read it. Then he read it again. His visible eye widened. The slouch in his shoulders vanished. What is it? Gaara asked, stepping forward. Is he dead? Kakashi looked up at the moon, which was shrouded in winter clouds. For the first time in 2 years, a genuine smile touched his lips beneath the mask. No, Kakashi said. His voice shook with suppressed emotion. He's not dead. He handed the scrap of paper to Shikamaru. Gaara leaned in to read it over Shikamaru's shoulder. The message was 3 sentences long. Found a tear in the fabric near the Kagaya coordinates. It is not natural. It is a stasis lock. I can hear the heartbeat of the 9 tails. He is frozen. I am coming home. Shikamaru lowered the paper. He let out a laugh that sounded like a sob. Troublesome, that troublesome idiot. Frozen, Gaara whispered. Stasis. He didn't die, Kakashi said, the authority returning to his voice, stronger than ever. He paused. Kakashi turned to look at the village below. The smoke from the riot had cleared. The snow was still falling, but it didn't feel as cold anymore. Shizen! Kakashi barked. Yes, Lord Sixth. Cancel the martial law discussions. Get me a direct line to the Reikage, the Mizukage, and the Tsuchikage. Tell them I am calling an emergency 5 Kage summit. On what grounds? Shizen asked. They won't come for another political debate. Tell them it's not politics, Kakashi said, clutching the scroll in his fist. Tell them we have found the sun. Kakashi looked at Gaara. We have to prepare, Kakashi said. Sasuke is coming back. And if he's right, we're going to need a lot of chakra. Gaara nodded, a fierce light returning to his teal eyes. I will rally the sand. If the Tsuchikage tries to stop us, I will move him myself. Shikamaru lit a cigarette, his hand finally steady. He took a deep drag and blew the smoke into the winter air. The cold peace is over, Shikamaru said. Now the real work begins.